This film is sponsored by New York Life and its dedicated agents, proud sponsors of NFL Team Highlight Films. New York Life, the company you keep.
Great journeys always reveal one thing: the strength you never knew you had before you left.
You know what I'm saying? Let's play for each other, make it a great one today. All for each other, baby.
The Chicago Bears set out to improve on their 9-7 '94 season. And while they finished right back at 9-7 again, what an enlightening journey it was.
Get your hands on three. 1, 2, 3, take it out.
Right from the opening kickoff, it was a season played on the edge. A cliffhanger full of surprising twists and shocking endings. They found out that you could fire 4 touchdown passes and lose. Later, they tossed up an interception and fumbled 5 times, but still managed to defeat the playoff-bound Eagles. Twice they scored 28 and lost. Once they scraped together 14-1. But through it all, they never quit, and they always hit. Head coach Dave Wanstead never lost sight of the big picture. To do big things, you have to make big plays. Big plays win games and earn championships. In 1995, the Bears ran up nearly 70 more first downs, 1,000 more yards, and over 120 more points than the year before.
Salam, the tailback, give her a chance. Salam, big hole left side of the 10 to the 5, and he's big on the end zone. Touchdown!
They were a team of risk takers, playmakers, and record breakers. They played on the edge of your seat, at the top of your lungs, bombs away football.
Wait for it, Nick.
And their sights are set on even bigger things in '96. This is the ticket to great plays. Spectacular catches, hard hits, and magic moments. And for the 12th time in 13 years, it was a ticket to an opening day win. Against the Vikings, the Bears unveiled their attacking new-look offense. The plan was to stretch the field, exploit weaknesses, and eat up huge chunks of yardage. On defense, they stressed heating up the pocket and forcing turnovers. The plan worked to perfection as they shut out Minnesota in the second half and ripped off 24 unanswered points.
5, Kramer back to throw. Looking right, throws the end zone. Touchdown, Conway! Fake handoff, Kramer rolling right, throws the end zone. Touchdown, Jennings! Receivers right and left, give Salam up the middle. Salam diving forward to the goal line. Touchdown!
2 weeks later, they dominated on both sides of the ball and special teams to blow out the Bucks.
First down and goal to go Bears. Offset out in the backfield. Give Robert Green up the middle to the 5 to the end zone. Touchdown! Robert Green untouched. Jeff ran back deep in the pocket. Flipped down the play and picked up by Marshall to the 10 to the 5. Touchdown! Anthony Marshall with the block to the second week in a row. And this time he returns it for a touchdown.
In October, the Bears entered the zone. They were 4-0 in the month, and big plays were followed by even bigger ones. It all started against the Panthers.
Fontenot at center. Todd Perry back at left guard. Right guard is Jay Lewinberg. Williams is at the right tackle spot. Play action, and Kramer on 1st and 10 back to throw. Rainbows deep down the right sidelines to the end zone. Leaping grab for the touchdown. Sensational catch, Curtis Conway.
Eric Kramer, in his own personal zone all season long, threw 3 touchdown passes in what quickly became a high-scoring nail-biter.
Off play action, rolling right. Kramer lost the right side of the end zone. Jennings over the shoulder. It's up the field, and he makes a sensational catch. Touchdown! Keith Jennings sprawling in the right corner of the end zone. Hauled it in.
Down by 3 in the final minutes, the Bears were down but not out, and they looked to Eric Kramer to get them close. He led a crisp 10-play do-or-die drive that had them at the brink of victory with 38 seconds remaining.
Third down, goal to go on the 1. Straight I formation. Here's the give. Green breaks to the right to the outside of the goal line. Reaches to the end zone. Touchdown!
Chicago made it back-to-back victories over expansion teams with a road win down in Jacksonville. The big play man this time was Curtis Conway, who scored 3 touchdowns, the most by a Bear in 12 years. The Jags were simply no match for the monsters of the Conway.
Jaguars show a blitz up front. Kramer takes in a tight pocket, throws it over the middle. Got Conway coming up 30 to the 25, 20. Hit the foot race, 15, 10 yards. Touchdown!
They were 4-2, short-circuiting scoreboards and running up 30 points a game.
Red, right, 22 Razor on the quick, right?
The trigger man was Iron Man Eric Kramer, the only NFL quarterback to take every snap in 1995.
Vikings show a blitz up front. They've got Del Rio and Barnett in the blitz position. Back to throw. Kramer off play action. Rainbow right side. Conway ahead of the field. 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Curtis Conway. Oh, my goodness. He was like Secretariat in the Belmont.
Eric Kramer won the Triple Crown of quarterbacking. He threw the most passes for the most yards, with the fewest interceptions in team history. His 29 touchdown passes broke Sid Luckman's mark that stood for 52 years. And quite simply, he had the best single season a Bear quarterback ever had.
I give you lightning on the line. It's going to be lightning pump. I give you that. It's pump, automatic pump. Get him running, pump, and go.
Up front, Jerry Fontenot, Todd Perry, Todd Berger, and Jay Lewinberg were part of a unit that had only 2 holding penalties all year. James Williams and Andy Heck were the bookends of a line that allowed a league-low 15 sacks. Six touchdown catches by Keith Jennings were the most by a Bear tight end in 32 years. Jennings, Chris Gedney, and number 89 Ryan Wetnight were tough targets who fought for every yard. It had been 25 years since a receiver had cracked the 1,000-yard mark. The big play Bears featured not 1, but 2. Jeff Graham set a new yardage record, while Curtis Conway scored in a record-tying 7 straight games on his way to a team-high 12 touchdowns. Michael Timpson was a clutch option who turned 3rd down into 1st down. And on the ground, the chains were moved by Robert Green. Green was a multi-purpose Swiss Army knife of a back, catching passes, blocking, and slicing up defenses for over 5 yards a carry. Lewis Tillman and Raymond Harris replacement Tony Carter bolstered an improved ground game. But the back of the future is Heisman winner Rashaan Salaam. All Salaam did was break Walter Payton's rookie rushing record, run for over 1,000 yards, and score 10 touchdowns. With Salaam as the battering ram and the offense more balanced than ever, the Big Play Bears were on their way to 392 points, the most in 10 years. In October, the Bears celebrated the 10-year anniversary of their Super Bowl championship.
And last but certainly not least, the NFL's all-time leading running back, Walter Payton.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Super Bowl 20 Super Bowl champion Chicago Bears, we want to say this was for you because you stood by us, you gave us the support, we had fun doing it, and thanks to you, we all can celebrate.
The '85 world champions were a memorable cast of characters full of sound and fury. But in the game played that day against Houston, the Big Play Bears lit some fireworks of their own.
And Kramer back to throw. The rush is on. Steps up. Rainbows deep down the middle. Got a man out there. Conway, fingertip catch. 30, 20, going all the way. 10, 5, touchdown. 76 yards.
They cruised to a 25-0 lead, paced by 3 fumble recoveries by John Theory and a safety by Al Fontenot.
Backs are split wide. And back to throw Chandler. Chandler under pressure in the end zone.
They had reeled off 3 straight wins, and next up, a trip to the Metrodome, where they looked to sweep the Vikes and snap an 8-game Monday night losing streak. Defensive tackle and fullback Jim Flanagan caught Minnesota off guard, hauling in the first of 2 Kramer scoring passes, and with just 35 seconds left in the half, the Viking defense made a much bigger mistake. They let Curtis Conway get behind them.
Now the Bears again without a huddle. 35 seconds ago. Back to throw. Kramer rushes on. Steps up. Rainbows deep down the middle. Conway over the shoulder. Rebound to catch the goal line. Touchdown! Eric Kramer to the California Comet again!
In their finest effort of the season, the defense allowed only 2 field goals, sacked Warren Moon 4 times, and hammered home a second-half shutout.
Smith and sack! Moon takes Bears in a blitz. Moon runs hard in the play. Driven down. Sacked in the play. John Mangum back inside Minnesota.
Chicago was a division-leading 6-2. But in the next 2 weeks, they'd face the Super Bowl-bound Steelers and the championship game-bound Packers. Dave Wanstead would need every big play in the book.
All right, see, let's do it.
In both games, Chicago scored first.
Second and goal. Kramer back to throw. Hit as he throws the middle of the end zone. Touchdown, Conway! Touchdown, Eric Kramer to Curtis Conway. 6-yard touchdown pass.
In both games, Kramer fought hard, firing 3 touchdown passes against Pittsburgh and 2 more up in Lambeau as the Bears kept pace.
Down from the 2.5-yard line. Goal to go for the Bears. Kramer takes, gives Salaam, leaps the right side of the line to the end zone for the touchdown.
Back at Soldier Field, the Bears crept out to a touchdown lead against the Steelers as darkness crept in along Lake Michigan.
Kramer takes, short drop, swings it left side, 1 to the 10, makes the turn to the 5, dives, end zone, touchdown!
Just before halftime, Kramer and Conway shocked the Packers, and the game was deadlocked at 21.
Winds up, Rainbows deep down the right side.
Conway for the touchdown.
Dave Wanstead was getting the big plays he had to have. Now he needed one from his defense. Alonzo Spellman and Barry Minter were the playmakers this time.
Vincent Smith in the slot. Back to throw down. The ball tipped in the air by Spellman. Touchdown, Chicago! Spellman the tip. Minter the interception and the touchdown.
In Green Bay, the Bears fought to the bitter end and the bitter cold, but 3 passes in the final 11 seconds fell incomplete, and they lost by 7. Even worse, they lost in overtime to Pittsburgh. The razor-close defeats left them worn out and struggling for their playoff lives.
Blue and orange. I bleed blue and orange. I love the Bears. Bears, there's nobody better. Who does nobody. Who does it? Nobody.
A 3-game losing streak couldn't keep true fans down for long as the Bears marched into the Meadowlands.
Last year I went to 20 games and drove 18,500 miles.
Chicago needed a win to reassert themselves.
Let's go, Big Hammer.
Third down, goal to go. Kramer takes on a reverse, gives to Simpson. Sweeping left, he's got the angle, cuts it back inside of Hart.
Great teams aren't great all the time. They're just great when they have to be. The Bears were just that.
Takes the snap from Fontenot, fakes to Green, roll out right. Go! Put it in, punch it in. Kramer looking the right side of the end zone. Now throw it the right side, touchdown!
Michael Timpson's second touchdown helped tie it. Eric Kramer had all his timeouts, but only 48 seconds left to work with. He squeezed in 8 plays and squeezed out 48 yards. Then it was up to clutch kicker Kevin Butler.
I like Kevin Butler with the game on the line. In the course of his career, he's won so many games down the stretch.
Mr. Ice.
Gedney down on one knee. Arm extended. Here it is. Placement made. Kick is on its way to the upright. There it is.
Butler's heroics saved the day. Now they needed a strong finishing kick to save their playoff hopes. They were on the bubble, and they needed some pop.
Now, if it's the ends, if the minute the back sits inside, your green dog is over. You go ahead and go get them.
Go get them they did, and that pop would come from the defense. Jim Flanagan often got there first, and his 11 sacks led the team. Not far behind was Chris Zorich, who led the line in tackles for the 3rd straight year. The Bears had 7 more sacks than in '94 by rotating in fresh troops like Carl Simpson, John Theory, and Al Fontenot. Alonzo Spellman set a club record by chalking up a sack in 7 straight games, and he's counted on to be a force for years to come. Linebackers like Joe Kane were a big reason why the Bears were the NFL's 5th best against the run, while Barry Minter and Ron Cox got the drop on receivers. Vincent Smith led all linebackers in sacks, and he spearheaded the big play hit parade. Despite missing 7 games, Donnell Wolford topped the team in interception. They increased their '94 interception total by 4, as Jeremy Lincoln chipped in along with Dwayne Joseph, James Burton, and Kevin Minifield. Mark Carrier led in passes defended, while John Mangum and Anthony Marshall complimented leading tackler Marty Carter, who was always around the ball. 2 December losses rushed them to the ER. But as for the playoffs, there was still a fighting spirit and lots of Chicago hope. It had been 9 years since the Bears had won their final 2 games. They had to do exactly that to have a chance to play in January. As always, big plays would tell the tale.
Second down for the Bears. Second down and about 5. Back to throw. Kramer steps up against the pressure. Wings it deep down the middle. Got a man out there. Touchdown!
Against Tampa Bay, they landed a first-round knockout. 4 turnovers by the defense and 3 touchdowns from Rashaan Salam kept their hopes alive.
Ram to the left side. Carter the fullback. Salam the tailback. Give Rashaan Salam. Big hole left side of the 10 to the 5. And he's spit to the end zone. Touchdown! Get the motion to the right. First and goal from the 3. Gives Salam off the right side. He walks into the end zone. Untouched. Third touchdown of the day. 3-yard touchdown run. Rashaan Salam put it on ice. 30-10 Bears.
The playoff-bound Eagles were the final test. A win along with an Atlanta loss, and Chicago was in. The big play Bears were just that, as 2 touchdowns by Keith Jennings and 3 sacks by Alonzo Spellman forged a critical victory.
Scrambling left. Fumbles the football. Up for grabs. Still up for grabs, and it's recovered by Chicago.
With one eye on the Falcons and the other on the Eagles, the Bears controlled the outcome in the only game they could.
Third down and 9 from the 39. He pulls back from center. Under pressure from Spellman. He's sacked by Spellman. Caught by the football. Alonzo Spellman's 3rd sack of the day. And that could be a nail in the Eagle coffin.
13 minutes after the game, they learned that Atlanta had won too, and Chicago was the only 9-7 team not to make the playoffs. This season, the Bears plan to control their own destiny, rely on one another, and leave nothing to chance. Armed with an offensive arsenal unmatched in years, Chicago is poised to make all the big plays for a division title.
Johnson, the lone setback behind Kramer, who backpedals. Deep drop, rainbows the left side of the end zone. Touchdown, Curtis Conway!
Dave Wanstead has coached in a Super Bowl and has guided his Bears to the playoffs, and he knows what it takes to succeed. You can't remain the same. Winners make changes, like the bold acquisition of 3-time All-Pro Brian Cox. Cox will enhance a rich mix of talent ready to fight their way deep into the playoffs. They're supported by the greatest fans in football, and they're ready to make the big plays necessary to be a champion.
They hadn't been champions since 1963. Still, they were coached by a champion, a man who played on that '63 team, a man who believed the Bears could be champions again.
Mike Dick is the first guy that came in and said, you know, you guys, we're going to win a Super Bowl. And he's the first head coach that walked in and mentioned the word Super Bowl and meant it.
Nobody loafing. Everybody going full speed. You got to make progress. You got to go forward. Let's go.
The Bears' battle cry in 1985 was, ask no quarter, give no quarter. But it wasn't until the 3rd game of the season that their motto was put to the test.
I think the turning point of the season came on that Thursday night game against Minnesota.
Mike Ditka refused to play and injured Jim McMahon. McMahon refused to stay put.
Mike just said, you know, you're not playing. You know, you haven't been to practice, you haven't done anything. I'm convinced to this day the only reason he put me in the game was to get me off the sideline because I was bugging the hell out of him. I just kept saying, look, this thing's slipping away. You better let me play. And you know, eventually he just said, all right, get your ass in there.
Evidence from the sidelines looks like Jim McMahon will be coming into quarterback. Spent 2 nights at Lake Forest Hospital for back spasms up near his neck. And he's on to try to revive the Bears offense.
The play was actually a screen pass. But as I come away from the center, I stumbled a bit. And that's when Walter came in and blocked the blitzing linebacker.
Caught him tiptoeing through the tulips, and I just let him smell the roses.
And I saw the blitz coming, so I knew the screen wasn't going to be any good. And I just happened to look downfield, and Willie Gault was running his man off, and he got behind him, so I just let it go.
Hurls it deep down the middle. Willie Gault is out there, makes the over-the-shoulder catch. Touchdown! Yeah. All right. The first play from scrimmage for Jim McMahon with an all-out blitz coming at him. He got it away.
That play would have never happened if Walter wouldn't have came off and made that block. I mean, McMahon would have got murdered.
Like Walter Payton, the Bears excelled in every phase of pro football. Chicago scored the most points in the NFC. Its defense held 14 opponents to 10 points or less. The 1985 Bears were truly a balanced team. The #1 rushing offense led the league in time of possession. The top-ranked defense was first in takeaways. In Week 11, the Dallas Cowboys were beaten 44-0, their worst ever defeat at Texas Stadium. Chicago's overwhelming defense and underrated offense propelled them from underdog to top dog. The Bears swept Green Bay, their hated rival. They won 13 straight games, talked big, and played bigger. Then, on a Monday night, Chicago met up with a team trying to preserve its own piece of history. Miami stopped the Bears from duplicating its perfect season. Oddly, it was the best thing that could have happened.
I don't think we could have gone to the Super Bowl if we hadn't had a loss. So the perfect record means nothing to me.
Chicago ended the regular season with a league-best 15-1 record.
Whatever we got on our minds, get rid of it, think football. One thing, 60 minutes.
Vendetta from his end zone. Bears look at good field position.
Oh, he missed it.
This is the football.
He missed it.
It's on the field.
It's Sean Holy smoke.
The snap to McMahon. He pop flies the right side of the end zone for McMahon. Touchdown! Great catch!
The Bears set a postseason record by going through the NFC playoffs without yielding a point.
Let's go, Jumbo!
McMahon rolling left, looking to deal. He fires the left side of the end zone. The Bears have captured the NFC Championship. Fire up the gumbo and clear the French Quarter. Here we come. New Orleans for Super Bowl 20.
Mike Ditka did such a great job of saying, you've earned this, but now you have to take it. And that was the kind of attitude we had. Take it.
In the ultimate game, Chicago proved to be the ultimate team. Six different Bear players scored in a lopsided 46-10 victory. The 1985 Chicago Bears were cool and colorful. A team unlike any other. A team for the ages.
There's not many opportunities you get together with 50, 60 guys and become the best ever.
For some, remembering the 1985 Bears defense is a haunting experience.
Ouch. Ouch. I can close my eyes today. There they are, right in front of me. Steve McMichael, Dan Hampton, Richard Dent, Mike Singletary with those big eyes staring at me. Off to the right is Otis Wilson, off to the left is Wilbur Marshall. I take the snap, I open my eyes, they're still there. I go to bed at night sometimes. I close my eyes, I break out in a sweat. They're still there. They actually hit you on their way going somewhere for a little meeting, and you happen to be in the way. You know, it's like, oh, sorry, Joe, we ran over you. You know, we weren't really interested in you anyway. You're a piece of dirt, and get out of our way. I mean, that's the way you felt.
As a quarterback and as an athlete, It was hard to really stand in there and summon up courage to keep standing in there, because no matter how good your team played, you were going to take a whipping physically.
Hey, man, this young quarterback, man, somebody knock him out for me, will you?
The source of the passing game is the quarterback. And so I think we were one of the first ones to decide that was a way to stop a passing game, is to get to the quarterback.
Damn, go get him!
Buddy Ryan was the first football coach that finally realized that the defense has the offense outnumbered.
When we would line up 8 guys across the line of scrimmage and the offense had 7, guess what? Somebody's free.
You could see when we ran 46 schemes that they couldn't pick up the blitz. I mean, you could literally see it before the snap of the ball. And it was 1, 2, 3, boom! And it was awesome.
The best defense I think I ever saw was that 85 Bear team. Pat Summerall and I did like 6 or 7 games, you know, towards the end of the season, including the playoffs, and we never saw a touchdown scored against them. And I mean, they were as dominant as you could be.
And so were the personalities of their leaders, Mike Ditka and Buddy Ryan. 2 men who didn't always see eye to eye.
Buddy used to tell him, look, I run the defense here. You know, I was here before you got here. You didn't hire me and you can't fire me, so get out of my face. I mean, that was a little strange at first, but then we just got used to it. I mean, it happened every week.
Ryan and Ditka weren't best friends, but Buddy truly loved his players. He said little to them, though, except for 3 words that came straight from the heart.
Dumbass, ass, and head. That was a triple crown.
Buddy Ryan didn't boost any egos, but players that dominant don't need to be told they're great. They know they're great. And they were never more overpowering than in the NFC Championship game against the Rams.
Snowing out here. Yeah, I'd say so. It's really starting to whip out there. Maybe they're cheering for the snow. I think they are. Not to get theatrical, but I mean, how better can you write a script here for crying out loud? The Brock back to pass, the rush on.
Wilbur got that fumble and it started snowing and we were all running down to the end zone. I mean, that was it. You knew you were going to the Super Bowl. George Halas ordained this, you know. I mean, that was about as unbelievable a moment. I mean, you know, you couldn't be out in Hollywood and say, okay, get the turnover. It's the defense. Turn on the snow. I mean, it was phenomenal.
And it was on to New Orleans, when, on the eve of Super Bowl 20, in their final team meeting with Buddy Ryan, the Bears experienced another special moment.
Buddy gave a very short speech, and at the end, as his jaw was kind of quivering, he said, no matter what happens, you'll always be my heroes.
They gave me a big standing ovation.
And I kind of started crying a little bit and told the Singletary, I said, it's a real shame he's leaving. And with that, McMichael picked up one of these chairs, a hotel chair, and threw it, and it hit the chalkboard, but it impaled the chalkboard. It was, I mean, it was about as good a sign as you could possibly ever get. And we all went out, yeah! You know?
The NFL may never see another defense like the 85 Bears. They were intimidating, they were destructive, and they rode a wave of emotion to a world championship.